Hello, I am Editor RXC once more. Welcome back to the Paintvember series. I've actually done quite a lot of work in this video related to how it shows up, which is very nice. It is not just a random square, and everything ends up looking much nicer. Isn't that a beautiful thing? We're going to be doing a whole bunch of the metallics in this episode in particular. I'm actually kind of cross-referencing a previous Infernus boy that I had painted, so that way I could get a better understanding on how this was going to look up. Yeah, I think this ended up going pretty all right. The actual flamethrower dudes were okay. However, I feel as though the Terminators actually turned out a lot better than the flamethrower guys, only because they're more of a specialized unit, which is much nicer. It's much nicer to look at them and be like, oh, this is a cool thing. This is dope. But we're going to see a lot of just that same shiny metallic whatever in this episode. Still not focusing yet. I haven't figured out I could turn off the autofocus and that it would save so much time. We're only a minute in so far, but it's still one of those things that it's just like, if I had figured this out, from the very beginning, I wouldn't have had nearly as many problems recording the first two episodes as I did. And just looking back at them, being like, oh man, I feel like I've done an awful job here. I think there I'd turn the autofocus off and you can actually see what I'm painting now, which is very good for the actual miniature, being able to tell what the hell I'm doing in this moment. I know these guys in particular, the Infernus guys, are just going to look like the regular Space Marines like I had mentioned, but the Terminators really did look much grander than I had expected that they would, especially under my eyes, which are not the greatest at seeing what the hell I'm supposed to be painting. In total, these guys definitely turned out better, and we'll see that in the final product, which only takes a few days. I'm very slow. I'm very slow at painting sometimes, and other times it's, oh, this guy I painted up 30 minutes, it's completed. But I think I'm trying to be meticulous for the videos, but I wind up losing out on a whole bunch of detail at times, or missing a lot of how fast I could have done it. Or making sure that my brushes actually had paint on them sometimes, which, is what it is. I mean, I paint on and off. It's mostly like a once a year occurrence, basically, whenever I do Painttober. So a lot of the times I'll have to remember what I had learned so long ago about what I'm painting, how to do whatever I'm intending to do. Here's the actual Terminator that I'm going to start painting here. You can see I love getting the actual belt buckle, sort of, I don't know exactly what words I want to use for this. Basically just that grav buckle where it locks into place. I want that to be metal. You can see on the joints here, I'm painting them that same lead belcher, because I like the look of that more than it just being blue. Same way for the joints, because I just like the idea of them being more detailed. Even though I know ceramite is strong as hell, and if it was made of ceramite, whatever. But I still wanted it to give that same look of it has a purpose. Like, this is joined, connected to another thing, and it's not just, oh, it's blue. It's a pipe, but it's blue, which is not different than everything else compared on this guy. These guys, I did get messy with. I did get horribly messy with, because uh, I was trying to be very meticulous, but my hands will jitter every now and again when I'm holding something, especially if I don't have them like prompted against each other or propped against each other. You could see I accidentally painted a little bit on the hand there, and I had to remove some with my finger. A lot of time whenever I get paint on my hands, that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to like wipe it away before anything. But sometimes it just smears and it becomes a huge pain. But otherwise, you can clear it out at times, trying to avoid the purity seal there, because that would just be a huge huge detrimental moment, having the seal be silver for some reason. Do like the look of that. Not You'll never be able to hear my actual reactions to these, because I obviously, as I said in the previous one, I sing whenever I paint and stuff, because it gives me something that I can pay attention to and not have to like worry about, my surroundings in that moment. But sometimes I feel it's bad. Because you won't have my honest reaction to when I had finished painting something and being like, it's not the worst. Like, it's okay. I wish it would look better, but it is what it is. These ones, I think these models in particular, because they don't have as many hard edges connecting into the actual leg pieces and stuff, became part of why it got messy. Because it just sort of like, there's a soft blend, there's no hard blend against the actual back of the leg piece, like brace of it, and the tube that comes off. Because if the tube had, like, if they were able to make it wrap around but not fully around, then it would have been all right. But in this case, it just sort of drops and like blends in with the wall of the leg. So a lot of times you can see even there's like a small piece of silver that I had painted on the leg because I couldn't get a better like handhold on it. Also, I love Terminators. I love how square they are. It really helps me have like a hand on like what am I thinking of here? It helps me brace myself way easier because of how it's shaped. Like you can see there, I have my index wrapped around it, and like I have it kind of cornered into my webbing for my index and my middle finger. And it's so nice. It's so nice and easy. And because of how wide they keep their arms, it's so nice to actually be able to paint them and not have to deal with nearly as many crooks and crevices and stuff. Like a normal intercessor, that gun's directly in front of his body. Like you can't attach the arms if you want to paint a Space Marine sometimes, because you have to get the brush in between. And it's primarily my fault for making them that way and not, preparing for the fallout that's going to happen from it. And in the future, I'm going to take that into account whenever I make models, because it is just a huge problem that I have. I just want it to be made so that way I can paint it and be done with it. But I lose out on all of the time-saving stuff that I could have gotten if I did not just put them all together. And this kind of went like whenever I had painted other stuff. Like, for example, my Tau guys, because they're much smaller than a regular Space Marine and stuff, I didn't realize, like, oh, this is going to be a problem until I had started painting them, and I was, oh, this is going to be great. Or for the, just paint myself there real quick, make sure my brush isn't overloaded. Sometimes whenever I do that, I'll get a little bit of paint on my thumb there because, you're working in close proximity. It's just ridiculous. Looking at how I paint sometimes, I got a little bit of lead belcher on my other thumb now because of how I have to brace my hands. Now my index is off entirely, and I have it squinged in between my middle finger and my thumb, so that way I can get a better clasp on it. It's really funny because I watch people paint sometimes, like miniatures, but not other stuff, and or like I watch other people paint stuff, but I'm referring to miniature painting in particular. I don't watch too terribly many people paint miniatures, but they always have like the little handles with the blue tack, so that way you can put them on and rotate them and everything. I just don't realize how many times I will like insect my hand so that way I could hold a miniature better or properly. And I do have a small handle. The issue is sometimes my hand doesn't like holding things, and I will just drop stuff, which I think I've already edited like 2 or 3 out from this episode in particular. And I probably will keep one in the future so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's just like, oh, it's on the floor or it's on the table, and I have to fix that and figure that out. But no, it is a pain to have to deal with for sure. Otherwise, I do like I do like actually being able to get a grasp on the miniature and like get them into angles that I wouldn't be able to if I had a handle like that. Which I wouldn't have to get into angles if I didn't just put them together immediately, but that is my own fault. Well, one thing that I do want to figure out in the future, I had gotten an airbrush, and I don't know exactly how they work just yet. I have yet to properly train with one to make sure that it sprays and does all the stuff. But I do want to actually give that gradient of magic and stuff like that. I just have to eventually procure paints so I can get a better understanding as to what gradient I can do for like a campfire or something along those lines. That is something I had made recently. I took some extra foam that I had, some some toothpicks and stuff like that, a little bit of cotton ball stuff, and I had made little campfire because I wanted to see if, first of all, I want to do DIY stuff because I think it saves a load. It saves a load of money off of props, especially when it comes to the RPGs of like D&D, Pathfinder, stuff like that. But also whenever you want to make your own terrain for wargaming stuff, when it comes to Warhammer or BattleTech, it's just way nicer to be able to make your own terrain for those moments. Like, I don't have a campfire set, miniature set for D&D, but I could always just make one, and I did. And I've got 2 little campfire things, one that's actually on and the other one that is off and has like died out kind of looking fire, which I had used a little bit of the airbrush for that so I could just kind of see what I could do. I think the paints that I had gotten are maybe a little thick, and I have to figure out how to thin them down, which is a whole other process for sure. But I get the idea that I'll probably use those in the future, maybe when I continue making painting videos and stuff like that, making them that little bit more lively from the sprayer itself. We're on to the other Terminator now, not having to deal with the big minigun. Thank goodness. I had so many problems with that minigun. I didn't realize how many problems I was going to have with it because I was like, well, the whole thing's going to be metal, so like whatever. I never realized my comfort gun of Space Marines just being a flat looking blaster, because it saves me so much sanity of detailing it. This looks like a normal blaster. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Maybe I'll try this out at some point as well. I wanted to figure out the metal gradient, I think it is, which is basically just paint it gray and give it that shiny look, but you don't actually have to use any metal paints, which I think would be pretty cool, because then you don't have to deal with the flakiness in the water and all the crap that goes with it, for sure. It's just kind of funny seeing where I put my hands trying to hold this miniature. I do look forward to one thing, is actually getting different armies and figuring out what I want them to be painted. You know, like I have what my Space Marines are. I know what they want to, or I know what I want them to look like. I know what I want them to have in terms of them. But like, if I had orcs, I have no idea what I want to paint orcs like, or I have no idea how I want to paint more of the Tau or whatever. Because I have Tau, but I never realized what I had wanted to do with them. I think I wanted them to be that regular white with red and all that stuff. But because white paint doesn't love me, I had to go with blue, and it's just, they look much, much cooler. I do like it a hell of a lot more. But it's just that same thing of like, they could look different. Like, what if I just made them green? What if I made a whole other different Tau looking people? Because it's, you know, give them that versatility of look. Which, you know, I think everyone should do something like that, where you get an army and they're supposed to be painted a certain way, and you just balls to the wall, hey, my orcs are red now, or they're green, but this time the green is the armor and the orcs are blue, you know? I don't know. Just kind of giving them like different things. The Warhammer itself, although like pretty dark and gritty when you actually get into the lore of it, is like really colorful, all things considered. Like, it's pretty bright when it comes down to it. And I think it's important to have that same aspect when you paint something like this, is you want them to catch the eye to a certain extent. Like, you don't want them to be placed into a different category where they don't feel scary as an army, but you do want them to feel that same, the same, I'm going to use this word incorrectly right now. You want people to have trepidation in fighting your army because of how well put together they look, or how well they carry themselves in battle. Like, orcs are, you know, they're orcs, they're going to do whatever. But you see orcs actually combine together and most of them are unified in what they're wearing and stuff, then it's terrifying. It's scary as hell. It's like, oh, all these orcs are wearing purple. That's awful. I hate that. Why did they do this? They're kicking our ass. Or like Sisters of Battle. Sisters of Battle are dope as hell. And I do, like, black armor is cool for sure, but you could totally throw some like greens or blues or yellows or whatever and give them a whole different outlook entirely, which I think is important to put together. We're getting towards the end of the video here. I'm going to be showing the progress in all of these little bastards that you had not seen previous, trying to be able to show you what they look like here with the various metallics placed in and painted. The first one up is our Infernus with the canister on the side, which you'll understand why most of that is gray on the canister whenever I get to painting them later. The Terminators, that I thoroughly enjoyed painting Terminators. I didn't think I was going to, because they have so many details. I thought I was going to be pretty disappointed when it came down to it. But I feel like because of how much detail there is, you can tell a whole other story with how it's put together, which is very important here. One thing I did miss is the vents on this Terminator. Pretty sure I pointed them out in the next episode, where I had finished recording and I had looked at, like, I do one final pass over before I just finish painting for the day and find out what I need to paint the next day over the course of this month, and or Paintvember month, I mean, and kind of like, oh, I need to put blue here because I painted over this and I have to do this, and that back and forth. A whole bunch of the episodes are basically me going back and cleaning what I had painted, which is, it's always funny to see that. Here I say hello or goodbye and thanks for all the fish, and this is me saying farewell. Editor RXC is going to be taking a nice little nappy after this, I think. But I'll see you in whatever is next. Thank you for watching, listening, going about your daily life, and I will see you in whatever is next. Take care.